For more on Boeing, let's bring in Jeffrey Sonnenfeld, Yale School of Management Senior Associate Dean for Leadership Studies and CNBC contributor. Jeff, in your view, what's the real meat on this move, on this story? It allows Muilenburg to just focus on the max and bigger issues get pushed up into the chairman's office, or there's some covering your butt on this as well by splitting the chairmanship? Is it a good? Should Muilenburg be happy that he at least gets to stay CEO?
Yeah, I think this is a win-win-win. I think this is a great move for Muilenburg. It's a great move for the board, and it's a great move for, I guess, the flying public and for investors. This is basically a separation of roles. Joe, as you know, I am not one of these governistas who waves that flag around and says it's the panacea for all situations. You name every major scandal that we saw at the turn of the 2000 era, all those crumbling companies, virtually every one of them, Enron, WorldCom, Adelphi, they had a separation of roles already, and it wasn't preventive, and it certainly it didn't predict better governance. However, at a time of transition, CEO successions, we often see it, and in a time of crisis. And we've seen this work really well at Procter & Gamble, at General Motors. At some of the best days of Vikram Pandit was when he had Dick Parsons at Citigroup running cover for him. And in fact, at Caterpillar, David Calhoun, who steps into this role now at Boeing, took on that role very successfully, quite recently, till last year at Caterpillar. So, I think it works well. There's at Raytheon in an earlier era, there's a great engineer who got the job a little early, Tom Phillips. He created the Patriot missile system and stuff. He was CEO, but Charles Francis Adams, ran cover for him as chairman of handling the regulatory front. And I think that can be a very effective partnership, and it surely will be in this case.
We didn't mention, I've known Calhoun, Dave, a long time. What's the role of a non-executive chairman? Is he going to be more of some kind of a hybrid between executive chairman and non-executive chairman, would you think, Jeff?
That is such a good question, Joe, because one I didn't mention that you would know well would be, say, at the transition to the New York Stock Exchange, when John Thain became CEO at a time of crisis after Dick Grasso left, we had a CEO, somebody step in there who'd been a former Citigroup CEO, and Citibank, in fact, John Reed, and he was there as an executive chairman. Now, that one is a little bit more blurring of roles because they're obviously quite hands-on. In this case, a non-executive chairman is very little difference than a presiding or lead director, the role he previously had. They're going to define it in a way, I think, which gives him a little bit more authority, gives Calhoun more authority. And you're right, Calhoun, a 26-year career, as Phil mentioned, at GE in aerospace, but also in infrastructure, jet engine and things.
Nielsen.
He's very well battle-tested. Worst thing you could say about him is he was CEO for a while at the evil Nielsen, which never gives us at CNBC the proper respect we deserve. They don't do the daytime ratings right. But that's the only thing bad you can really say about Calhoun, I think. And the rest of the board has a lot of bench strength. There's a tremendous Navy admiral. I mean, the board's done two things right here. This separation of roles is important, but also this new safety commission is more than cosmetic. To have a safety committee on the board is a very smart move.
Hey, Jeff, to the degree you think this was done ahead of this congressional hearing that Dennis is going to be speaking at, do you think it placates the regulators? Does it placate those who were planning to make headlines over this very issue?
Well, I think that's a very interesting nuance to all this, because we do have at least 2 rounds of congressional hearings coming up, and this ongoing interaction with the global regulators. It's quite an unwieldy bunch of the National Highway Traffic Safety Board, the FAA, and all the global regulators, including China. And to have somebody who can take on that heat is great. But my own senator here, Dick Blumenthal, has been pushing the company pretty hard. And not everybody would say unfairly either. It would be pretty fair pressure he's been putting on the company, wanting to hear from the board. Well, you don't really hear from random board members, but you can hear from a chairman. Sometimes it's confusing. At BP, Royal Dutch Shell, and others, you weren't quite sure who was speaking for the company. In this case, I think they should both go forward to testify. It's candidly, I think, makes this company stronger. You know, as Nietzsche said, what doesn't kill me makes me stronger. I think the resilience from this. I wrote a whole book on this, on firing back, and this is just the kind of thing that they should be doing in terms of fortifying and leveraging the resources they each have. And they would do well. I don't know if that's their plan, but they would do well to testify together. Calhoun brings enormous credibility and eloquence, and to drill down on technical specifics, having Dennis Muilenburg there would be a very, very effective team.